So the beginning part of this is a little bit of review of what we did last time. So sort of like a warm up, so to speak, on what we did last time with our Pythagorean theorem and our SOHCAHTOA. So looking at this one, this would be Pythagorean theorem. The way you can tell whether you need Pythagorean theorem or your sine, cosine, tangent is you need sine, cosine, tangent for angles. Do you see how none of these angles are labeled? And then you're like, well, that one's 90. Well, they're all going to be right triangles. Do you see how neither of the angles is labeled? So you can't do sine, cosine, tangent because it would be like sine of what? It has to be of the angle, right? You don't have that. So we would set this up x squared plus what? What would come next? So 8 squared, so 64. I'm going to write 8 squared just so we have the setup equals 12 squared. And so, yeah, you guys were saying it already. This would be 64 and this would be 144. So x squared equals what? You're going to subtract that over. So 80. And then you square root, but you do need to split it. We have to simplify the square roots. Now 4 does go into 80, but there is one that's bigger and you have calculators there. It is 16. 16 times 5 gives you 80. And so what's your like final answer? Yep, 4 square root of 5. So that's just simplifying the square roots. So again, we did that last time. This is just review of last time. This is one of the locker combination ones. If you remember it, you can just write the answer. If you don't remember it, you have to do the Pythagorean theorem. Not like that's that big of a deal, but does anyone remember that one? It is 25. Good. I was kind of hoping someone would remember it so we didn't have to do any more work. If you don't remember that one, kind of fine, whatever. Do you remember the triple that I said, please, if nothing else, can you give me this one? 3, 4, 5. Like if nothing else, you remember that one, right? Now this, do you see how there's an angle labeled? So you need sine, cosine, or tangent. This is the like you are here on the map. This is your point of view. So that means 9 is the what? Opposite, good, and x is adjacent. So is that sine, cosine, or tangent for opposite and adjacent? TOA, so tangent. So it's tangent of 53. It's always of your angle. Sine, cosine, or tangent of an angle equals opposite over adjacent. So that's 9 over x. Now hold on. You either multiply or divide. Whenever the variable's in the denominator like that, you're going to divide. And hold on, I need to make sure I'm in degrees, which I am. So you're going to type 9 divided by tangent 53. And last time I went through mathematically the reason why that is. What you're doing is you're multiplying the x to the other side and then dividing the tangent of 53 over. Essentially, they're just trading spots. But you're going to do a lot of typing this unit, and I want you to kind of just know how to type it so it's not taking you all that time. So 9 divided by tangent 53. Do you remember how many decimal points we need? 3. The first 3 that you see. You can round, I guess, if you want to, but I like to truncate and just take the first 3. So 6.781. Can anyone confirm? Okay, I like to make sure you got the same thing as me. So x is 6.78. Perfect. In this one, we're looking for the angle. This is still your point of view, though, because it's the one that's labeled. All right. So we don't have the opposite side. This would be the opposite, but there's nothing there. So that means 10 is the what? Adjacent. 14 is hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. All right. So sine, cosine, or tangent. We have adjacent and hypotenuse. Cosine, good. Cosine of what? X, good. It's the angle. We're just missing it. Equals 10 over 14. Now, do you remember how to type that one? Good. It's second cosine. It's cosine inverse is what we're doing. You're trying to uncosine. So it's cosine inverse 10 over 14. So like that. So when you're looking for the angle, it's an inverse. So second, and then your trig function. So I got 44.415. Is that good? Okay. And I would not mark this wrong at all if you didn't put the degree symbol. But I'd love it if you could get in the habit of putting degrees for angles, because degrees, like angles have degrees and sides don't. And it's a way you can tell the difference between them. So, I mean, I wouldn't take off points for it if your answer's right, for heaven's sake, but it is an angle that we found. So try to put the degree symbol in there. All right, so that's a review from last time. This is moving on towards like kind of the new stuff. I really wish that just once in geometry, like, because you do sine, cosine, tangent, right? I just wish they could for like 30 seconds go, oh, by the way, there's these other three that are the reciprocal functions, because there's a total of 6 trig functions. You just only do 3 of them in geometry. I wish they would just mention the other 3. So when we get here, everyone doesn't look at me like I have 5 heads when I'm like, hey, there's these other 3. I am also, and you're gonna like hate me for this, but I'm really picky about how you say them. And if you say them wrong, I'm going to correct you, because I have a big philosophy that the way you say things and the way you think things is connected to the way that you write things. And if you say it correctly, you're going to think it correctly and you're going to write it correctly. So we're going to say them correctly. I'm going to make you write them out phonetically this one time. This is not sin, it is sine. It is spelled S-I-N-E. Humor me and write it down. I'm going to correct you if you do it wrong. Okay. This is not cos, it is cosine. This is technically how it's spelled, cosine. This is not tan. We are not at the beach. It is tangent. Again, a connection between your thoughts and words. This one is called cosecant. Cosecant. And it's just the reciprocal of sine. You just flip it over. Bless you. SEC is secant. And this is not cot, it is cotangent. So you have sine and cosine, tangent and cotangent, secant and cosecant. But the way I have them lined up on there is how they're reciprocals. Please don't get hung up on the words. I don't know who named them, but they could be named Joe, Bob, and Frank. It's just words, sine, cosine, tangent. I don't know who called them that. I don't know why they're called that, actually. We should probably Google that. But like, those are just the words for what they're called, right? This little Easter egg thing is theta. That's like the variable that we use for the angle. You could change it to X if it really bothers you, but typically you see a theta, it's a Greek letter. Does anyone have like an older sibling in a fraternity or sorority? You know the Greek letters? Do you know what I'm talking about? The Greek alphabet? Okay, so that's theta. So this is your point of view. This is you are here on the map. Sine is what over what in your SOHCAHTOA? Opposite over hypotenuse. Good. So that would be 15 over 17. So that means cosecant is 17 over 15. And if you're like, that's it? Yep. Again, I wish in geometry they would just mention for 30 seconds. Oh, by the way, there's these other 3 and all you do is flip it. Because then when you get here, it wouldn't be like totally brand new thing. All right. Cosine is what over what? Good. That would be 8 over 17. So secant is 17 over 8. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent. That would be 15 over 8. So cotangent, 8 over 15. Okay. We're going to try that one more time with this one. Then I'll give you your break. Okay. But what is wrong with it? We need to fix about this triangle first before I can go and answer the questions. Missing a side. How on earth could we find it? Yeah, what theorem is that? Yeah, good. Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so it'll be x squared plus 4 squared equals 14 squared. So you just have to do that problem first, and then you can go write all the answers, all right? So that'll be x squared plus 16 equals, I don't actually know 14 squared. That's not one that I have memorized. 196. I know some people do. I'm embarrassed to admit I did. I know a lot of other stuff, but I just never memorized that one. All right, subtract the 16. That's going to give you 180. And then when you square root, you need to break it apart. So you need the largest possible perfect square that goes into 180. I think it's 36. Can anyone do 180 divide 36? Is that, you get a calculator, so I mean, is that 36 and 5? I ran out of space, but that's okay. I'm going to write it on the triangle. What is this reduced to? 6 square root 5. Now that means some of these, we're gonna need to like rationalize and reduce the roots and all that, blah, blah, blah. So what I do is I write the answers first, and then I go back and figure out which ones I need to like mess with, okay? So this is your point of view because it's the one that's labeled, it's got your theta. Sine is what over what, looking at this triangle? Yeah, good. So 6 square root of 5 over 14, and you can reduce 6/14 because they'll both divide by 2. So 6/14 would reduce 3/7. Very good. And then for cosecant, you're just going to flip it over. That's it. You just flip it. They are reciprocals. That's all that there is to it. All right, cosine is going to be what over what over here? Good. That would be 4 over 14. And that's also going to reduce 2/7. So secant, 7/2. Whenever there's a 2 on the bottom, everyone loses their mind. They're like 7/2. 7 over 2 is the easiest way to say it. All right, and then tangent would be what over what? Yep, 6 square root of 5. Oh, you jumped straight to the answer there, being fancy. 6 square root of 5 over 4. And again, you're going to reduce the 6/4. It'll be 3 square root of 5 over 2. And then, oh, so how do we say this one? It's not cot. Cotangent, good. It'll be 2 over 3 square root of 5. Now, I said I always write them out, and then I go back and figure out which ones need rationalize. Which 2 are the ones we need to rationalize? Because there's 2 that you're not allowed to leave them like that. Oh, well said, cotangent. And which other one? When you need to fix this one? And, oh, well said, cosecant. Why are those the 2? Square root on the bottom. All right, do you remember how to get rid of it? Multiply by the square root. So that would give you 7 square root of 5 over, now look, this part would be 5, but then times 3 is 15. So that's like your final answer. And then you're going to do the same thing with this one, multiply by square root of 5. What is that going to give you for like the final result? Good. This part would be 5, and then times 3 is 15. All right, so these are going to be our word problems. Basically 3 steps. You draw a picture, draw and label your picture. You set it up, sine, cosine, tangent, and then you type it in your calculator. So draw it, set it up, type it in the calculator. And this is where I love about trig. You have sine, cosine, and tangent. If you aren't sure, you have a 1 out of 3 chance of flat out guessing. Isn't that like people get worked up about the word trigonometry, but it's such a small world. There's not a lot to it. So if you get stuck, it's very easy to like guess your way out of being stuck. All right, but these are all going to be right triangles. So go ahead and draw a right triangle. And you're going to have a little bit of an imagination because I can't draw all this stuff. Do you have an imagination? Okay, we're gonna see what happens. All right. So a ship is offshore of a vertical cliff. So in your mind, this is the cliff. Here, I can draw a boat. This is the boat out there. This is the water. Do you see what are you imagining a boat and a cliff and there's water? Good job. All right. The cliff is 100 feet in height. Where am I going to put the 100 on my triangle? Yeah, the left side, the vertical side. That's 100. Takes the sighting to the top of the cliff. The angle of elevation. Okay. An angle of elevation means you're looking up. So that angle is going to go right here, 25 degrees. How far, so this is your question mark, this is where X is going to go. How far offshore is the ship? So where does X go? Is it the bottom or is it the hypotenuse? Bottom. How far offshore is the ship? It's how far away is it from the cliff? All right, that was step 1. We did it. We drew and labeled a triangle. Now you're going to pick sine, cosine, or tangent. So this is your point of view. Good. Tangent of what? 25 degrees equals what over what? Good. That was step 2. These are always worth 3 points. Like you draw it, you write this down, And then you type it in the calculator. So how are we going to type that? Careful, because x is in the denominator. So how would we type it? Good, perfect. You guys got that. 100 divided by tangent 25. That's what we're going to do for all of these. You set it up, or you draw a picture, you set it up, you type it in the calculator. And then you want to check your answer makes sense. It's 214 sounds like it makes sense. Yeah, well, I mean, the cliff was 100 feet high, so something close to 100. I mean, like in the ballpark. If you got 3, I hope you would be like, that's not right. Or if you got like 4,000, I hope you would be like, hey, that's not right. All right. So we got x is 214.450. And then you do need units because it's a word problem. I think this one was feet, wasn't it? Now, real quick before we go on, I kind of just explained it in that problem, but let me just like go off on a tangent here for a second and write this down for you. So your angle of elevation, can you guys just look? You don't need to write it down, I just need for you to look. Elevation means that you're looking up. So if this is your triangle, it goes right there. The other one, and we need a different word for this, but the angle of depression, do you remember that? Elevation and depression. So that means that you're looking down. So if this is your triangle, you have this invisible line with the sky and it goes right there. But here's the thing, alternate interior, and I know you're like, oh my gosh, please make it stop. Alternate interior angles, do you remember that sort of from geometry? Alternate interior angles are congruent. So your angle of depression and the angle of elevation are actually the exact same. So no matter what happens, just put your angle down there at the bottom of the triangle. Do you see what I'm saying? Because in theory, I know the earth is round. You know the earth is round, right? Okay. But in theory, the sky and the ground are parallel. So those angles are the same. Too long, didn't read, they're congruent, okay? So let's draw a triangle for number 8. And you're gonna have to, again, have an imagination. A 22-foot ladder is leaning against the building. Where does the 22 go on your triangle? If it's the ladder. Good, this is the ladder leaning against the wall. You gotta have a bit of an imagination. The 22 goes there. 70-degree angle with the ground. Again, just always put your angle down there at the bottom, 70 degrees. How far, so this is your question mark, your X value, how far up the building does the ladder touch? Where does X go? Yep, the opposite. So that's the setup. Now you're going to pick sine, cosine, or tangent. It is sine because we have opposite and hypotenuse. So sine of 70 equals X over 22. And then the last step is type it in. How would you type that one? Good, you're multiplying the 22 over, so it'll be 22 sine 70. And you should get a number sort of close to 22. I mean, if you get a number that's like 7,000, you should be like, hey, it's not right. A 22-foot ladder can't reach up that far. I got 20.673. And again, when it's a word problem, you just need to put units. Again, this one was feet. Typically it's feet, but sometimes it's not. So make sure you read the problem. I told you these go kind of quick. You just, draw a triangle, label it, type it in your calculator. All right, a radio transmission tower is 200 feet tall. Don't write it down, but where do you think the 200 should go? If it's the height of the tower. Yeah, like it's going to be the vertical part, but just hold on. Don't write that yet. How long should a guy wire be? Do you ever see a tower or like, I always think of plants, like bean sprouts where they tie a string to, okay, that's the guy wire is that part. So the guy wire is going to be the hypotenuse. How long should that be? So that's our question mark. This wire is X. If it's attached to the tower 10 feet from the top. So I can't put 200 here. It's 200, but we want to attach it 10 feet lower down than the top. So it's 190, good. And then you need an angle. What's our angle? 21 degrees. So sine, cosine, or tangent. It will be sine, good. Bless you. Sine of 21 degrees equals what over what? Yep, 190 over X. And then you go and type it in the calculator. So how do you type that one? Good, perfect. 190 divide sine 21. And hey guys, and you're all doing this. This hasn't been a problem yet, but sometimes I get to a point where people just wait until I type it in and copy my answer. Don't do that. Typing it is a skill you need to have. I can't help you type it when you're taking a quiz or test. So please type them with me. Okay. I got 530.181. And I think this one was also feet. Yeah. Now that does sound really big, but the tower was, you know, what, 190, 200 feet tall. Now hypotenuse is going to be longer. So, I mean, it's still in the ballpark. We didn't get something that was like hundreds of thousands of feet. All right, go ahead and draw a triangle. You are standing on top of a building. So you're up here. This is you. Looking down at your friend with an angle of depression of 56 degrees. So just look, watch me point to this. Your 56 degrees, don't write this. I'm going to end up erasing it. Your 56 degrees would go in here. So where should I put the 56? Yeah, and what do we call those angles? Alternate interior, good. Just always put the angle at the bottom is the takeaway of that. All right, your friend is standing 40 meters. Oh, this one's meters, by the way. 40 meters from the building. Where does the 40 go? The bottom. How tall is the building? Where does X go? Yeah, the left side, the vertical side. All right, that's the picture. Sine, cosine, or tangent? Good, tangent. We have opposite and adjacent. Tangent of 56 equals X over 40. How do I type it? Yeah, good. You're multiplying the 40 over. So 40 tangent 56. Some of you finished it before I could even like write it down. But I'm sorry, I have to keep everybody together. So 59.302 meters. Be careful with that. That, you know, that's a reading thing. Just make sure you read the problem because that one was in meters. What do you usually use in physics? Do you usually use feet or meters? Meters. Meters, okay. All right, draw a triangle. A 25-foot tall tree. So where would the 25 go if it's the height of the tree? What do you think? The vertical part or the horizontal part? Yeah, the vertical part. So your 25 goes there. Cast a shadow 38 feet in length. Now, if I'm standing here, my shadow is going to go on the ground, right? You following me there? Your shadow is going to go along the ground unless you're Peter Pan or something. Okay, so that 38 goes along the bottom. It says, what is the angle of elevation? So X is going to go right there. Sine, cosine, or tangent? Good. Tangent of X, good, equals 25 over 38. And like half of you are typing it already. How are you typing that one? Second tangent. It's tangent inverse 25 over 38. And the common mistake on this is people will put feet or meters or something like that. What did we find? We found an angle, right? So your units are degrees. I know that seems like such a little thing, like to put the degree symbol in, but those are your units. If you're scared you're going to forget it, write out degrees, D-E-G-R-E-E-S, like write it out as a word, degrees, okay? Because that's your units. All right, draw a triangle. An airplane is flying 10,500 feet above the ground. So where does that 10,500 go? Yeah, on the left, the vertical part. Horizontal distance, so they're literally telling you it's the horizontal part, is, I'm not going to say that whole number. That number goes down here. Now it says, what is the angle of depression? But the depression and elevation are the same angle, so where are you going to put X? It's going to go right there. So sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent again. Have you noticed that tangent comes up a lot? You don't usually have the hypotenuse. That's not normally a piece of information you get. So if you are gonna just have like a guess of sine, cosine, or tangent, tangent is a good guess, all right? Tangent of x equals 10,500 over, I guess I'll say that, 45,480.5. And then again, you're gonna do tangent inverse. I'll let us round to a whole number for this one. I think it was probably supposed to be a whole number. I got 12.999999999. Is that what you guys got? Okay, so we'll go ahead and say 13, but it's 13 what? Degrees. Yeah, so like, this is what I meant on the other one. If you're scared that you're gonna forget to put the units, you can write it out in word, like in letters like that. I'm gonna skip number 13. We'll just do the last three here. I'll write it out and I'll take a picture of it when I post it on Schoology, but these last couple are a little bit more complicated and I don't think we need to do like every single one of them. So we'll skip that one. All right. I always write the eyes of a basketball player because some smart person is always like, but what about these few inches like above their head? Okay. Anyway, the basketball player is 6 feet tall. All right. So I'm going to draw this little, like, pretend it's a person, pretend that's a stick figure. This person is 6 feet tall, or their eyes are 6 feet above the ground, however you want to think. Oh, I wrote it in the wrong spot though. Sorry, I'm skipping 13. So the person is 6 feet tall. They are at the free throw line, which is 15 feet from the center of the basket rim, which is 10 feet above the floor. So here's what's going on. This is 10 feet. And they are 15 feet away. So this horizontal distance is 15. Now there has to be a right triangle. That's the topic that we're doing. Do you see where there could be one? What do I need to connect to make there be a right triangle? Do you see it in there? Like, are you guys following me? How this would be a right triangle? Okay, so you got to look at that part. Now, before I read anything else in the problem, can you watch me point to this? If this distance is 6 and the whole distance is 10, what is this little part right here? That's 4. Good. We can subtract. Awesome. I don't have an X in there. What are we looking for? You guys read through it. Where is X gonna go? Read the rest of it. What is the what? Angle of elevation. So X is gonna go right there. All right, so I know the colors don't show up on here, but you want to try to just look at this right triangle. Do you want sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent of what? X, good, equals 4 over 15. Perfect. And then go ahead and type it in. Again, it's going to be tangent inverse because you want the angle. I got 14.931. And again, your units are degrees. So you can just put the degree symbol or write out the word degrees. All right, we got 2 more. I'm going to show you some fancy calculator tricks on these ones. So if you've been working ahead of me, which is totally fine, come back on these last 2, okay? Because I'm going to show you how to do some fancy stuff, button pushing in there, okay? All right, a person is standing 150 centimeters from a mirror. Use your imagination. You've all stood in front of a mirror before. We have an angle of depression to the bottom of the mirror and an angle of elevation to the top of the mirror. So here's what's going on. This is the person's eyes. Here's the mirror that they're looking in. I'm going to connect their eye to the mirror, and we can look up to the top or we can look down to the bottom. So do you see how there's 2 right triangles? It's going to be a 2-step problem instead of just 1 step like all the other ones have been. So let's start putting some numbers in there. 150 centimeters away, so that distance in the middle is that 150. Angle of depression to the bottom of the mirror was 12. So the 12 degrees goes in there. That's the one to the bottom. And then to the top, it was 11. So just very slightly different. Their eyes are practically right in the center. Are you good with everything I labeled so far? That's 12, that's 11. They're 150 centimeters away. These are right triangles. Okay, no one's complaining. No one ever complains in here though, so I'm just making sure we're all on board. Determine the vertical measurement of the mirror. You're gonna have to do the upper triangle and then the bottom triangle and then add them together. So here's what you wanna do. Call the upper one A and the lower one B, and we're gonna do two problems. And I'm gonna show you how to do a copy paste in the calculator. And you're gonna have to listen to me because this copy paste feature thing is not gonna go away. You're gonna use it the rest of the unit, okay? So don't be like, I'm not gonna pay attention to this. You need this, okay? So let's look at just the top one. Sine, cosine, or tangent. Try to just look at the top triangle. Good. Tangent of 11 equals A over 150. So how would you type that in? Perfect. 150 tangent 11. Go ahead and write it down, and then I want you to look up here. I got 29.157. I want you to not do anything except watch. I'm going to do this, and then you guys can copy me, okay? I want to store that number because I'm going to reuse it. It's going to be a copy paste. So I'm going to do the copy part of it right now. Do you see this button that says stow? It's right next to the 1. I'm going to hit stow, and what happens is I get a little arrow on my screen. Cool so far? Store it as A. You're going to hit the alpha button. And do you see these green letters that you have all in here? Like you have the whole alphabet. Do you see A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah? Which button would I hit to get A? Like what does the button actually say on it to get A? Math. Do you see that there? How A is right above that? All right, so I'm going to hit that button. Do you see how it's an arrow with an A? And then enter. Now you guys do it. Store alpha A, enter. Store alpha A, enter. I'm going to say that 4,000 times this unit. Store alpha A, enter. Store alpha A, enter. Now you could turn the calculator off. You could throw it against the wall. You could clear everything out. It thinks that A is this number. We've copied it. Control C is what we did. Cool. All right. I know you're like, why is she saying it over? Because you have to know it. All right. Now we're going to do the lower triangle. That one, I'll speed this one up. That would be tangent of 12 equals B over 150. So go ahead and type that one in. How would you type that? Yep, 150 tangent 12. You should get something close to 29, like it was practically the same degrees. I got 31.883. And what I want you to do is store it as B. Store alpha B, enter. Store alpha B, enter. Store alpha B, enter. So store is right here, again, kind of right next to the 1. Alpha. And then B is, the button itself says apps. Do you see that there? All right, store alpha B, enter. And we copied that one. Now you can clear everything out. How do we get the total height of the mirror? What are you going to do with A and B? Add them together. So on your calculator screen, clear everything out. Make it completely clean and fresh. You're going to do alpha A plus alpha B, and it will add them together. Hit down, 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 all the way to the bottom until you're like free of everything, and then just hit the clear button. So I got 61.040. And it wasn't feet. This was a mirror. It's not going to be like feet long. What was it? Centimeters? All right, we're going to do one more. We got plenty of time. This one's going to be kind of similar, so you can practice that again. Adorning the top of the Board of Trade building in Chicago is the statue of Ceres. Am I saying that right? Does anyone know like the Greek gods or Roman gods? Ceres, whatever. Anyway, the goddess of wheat. From street level, 2 observations are taken. So there's going to be 2 triangles, right? Here's what it's going to look like. Our one triangle, and then you're going to have another one inside of that. They take one sighting to her feet and then one sighting to her head, like the top of the statue. So one, like this is the statue of this goddess of wheat. Do you see what I'm saying? Like here's her feet, here's her head. Are you following me here? I'm not a great artist. That's about the best it's going to get. Okay. From street level, 2 observations are taken 400 feet from the building. So where does the 400 go? If you're 400 feet from the building, this is the building. Yeah, the horizontal part, like she's on top of the building. Like this is the building. She's on top of it. Angle to the base of the structure, so to her feet, is 55.1. So that goes in there. I'm sorry, that's really tiny, but the 55.1 goes in there. That's the one to her feet. And then the one all the way to the top, so that's this whole thing, like the whole everything, is 56.5. What is the height of the statue? So again, we're gonna do two triangles. I'm gonna call this one A. That's gonna be just this distance. B is gonna be the whole thing though, because this angle goes the whole way. So this is A and then B is the whole thing. It's gonna be tangent again, all right? So let's do the little one. It'll be tangent of, what's the smaller angle? Yep, the 55.1 equals, now try to just look at the smaller triangle. That would be A over 400. So what I would like for you to try to do is type that in and then store it. Store alpha A, enter, store alpha A, enter. All right, so you're going to type that in and do store alpha A, enter. And you still need to write that number on your paper, because like when I'm grading a test, if I don't have that, like I can't do partial credit if something gets messed up. So make sure you still write that. And also, can you guys double check me, because I'm a human and button push wrong sometimes too. Did anyone get 573.386? Okay, thank you. Confirmation. Were you able to store it? Store alpha A, enter. Okay, now we're going to do the other one. It would be tangent of what this time? 56.5 equals what over what? B over 400. You're going to type that in, store it as B. You can clear all this out. And I got 604 and some change. All right, now what do you need to do with A and B? With the mirror problem, we added them together to get the total height of the mirror. But good, you want to do B minus A to get the height of the statue. So B, actually, let me write that on here. For this one, it was A plus B. For this one, we're going to do B minus A. So you can clear everything out, go to a completely fresh screen, and you're going to do alpha B minus alpha A. And that will give you the height of the statue. And was this in feet? I can't remember. Feet, okay.